I would like to know what my proper action should be in moments when a close person is going through a very hard time.
What exactly is difficult for him?
He has lost everything he worked towards for many years. It's financial. For a man, this is very hard.
Lost everything he had? He is in a state of mental blockage. Movement is needed. Take his hand and say, let's go for a walk. Go somewhere. Along the Neva River to Kameni Island or to Yelagin Island. I don't know many places to go here.
Dr. Torsunov, what else should I do besides movement? Is there any other way I can support him or influence him? He's withdrawing more and more from the world. He seems very disappointed.
Interact with people and transfer that energy to him. Respond exactly as you see fit. If you see that his willpower is damaged, then focus on prolonged, continuous movement. If his social strength is diminished, invite friends home, be cheerful, and involve him in the process. If that's too much for him, then you can socialize yourself and pass the joy on to him. You need to react to what's happening. For example, if he's not eating, how can you help him? You need to find a way to get him to eat. Eat next to him and say, this pastry is so delicious. Here, try it. Isn't it amazing? Just try a little for me. And when he does say, oh, isn't it so tasty? Involve him in the process.
Will this really help?
My dear, I've been giving lectures for 30 years. I've seen hundreds of thousands of people like you. I'm telling you simple things. What's your problem? If I sat down and asked for a huge amount of money for a single word, you'd probably listen and believe me. But I'm saying simple things that seem to you like they couldn't possibly work, like prolonged, continuous walking. It's a simple thing, isn't it? You think, how can that possibly help? But it helps much better than all these tricks and gimmicks.
Thank you, Dr. Torsunov. Should I start walking with him?
Yes, start walking with him. If you can walk for a long time, you'll see a tremendous result even after one time. You'll go on one walk and he'll feel better immediately. He has a blockage.
He's sitting right next to me.
Where next to you? It doesn't matter. I can determine it either way. His blockage is at the end of the third and beginning of the fourth energy layer. This means he needs prolonged, continuous movement. His social strength is diminishing. He needs socializing, inviting friends over, celebrating with them, and interacting. This tough period will last another 4.5 months related to his work. After that, things will improve. Such periods always temper a person. You either become stronger or end up in the dumpster of history, depending on what you choose. At any moment, you can choose to go to the dumpster of history, sitting and begging, please help the poor Basilio cat survive. If you want to live like that, you can. The second option is to become wiser and stronger. But for that, you need to recharge with energy. You need prolonged, continuous movement. Right now, he clearly lacks social strength. He needs to stop withdrawing and start enjoying friendships and people. The fact that you both came to this lecture together is already great. It's progress. Tomorrow you can join us for a run or at least a walk. We love everyone there. If someone is crawling, we cheer them on as we run past. Everyone does what they can. If someone can crawl, they crawl, overcoming their fate. We cheer them on. If they run, we cheer them on too. Last time, when I was running, a girl was running alongside me, crying. I said to her, run slower. Why do you feel the need to run with me? She replied, I want to run with you. I asked, why are you running? She said, I'm running to get married. I looked at her, and she had a dynamic blockage in her personal life. She did everything correctly. She diagnosed herself accurately and made the right decision. She had never run before in her life, but she ran and ran, covering 4 energy layers, almost 13 kilometers. When she broke through her blockage, I told her, you don't need to keep running now. So she started walking. I saw that she had resolved a major issue in her fate with just one run. You understand? Live on the bright side.
Dr. Torsunov, thank you very much. May I ask a short question? It's very brief, just 2 words.
A question may take 1 word. The issue is how long it will take to answer. Go ahead.
Dr. Torsunov, I experienced betrayal and now I can't trust. I can't forgive. I can't trust again. And it's very hard for me. What do you recommend?
Betrayal comes in different forms. Sometimes it's when a person breaks the laws of God. Moses specifically brought commandments that must not be broken. Adultery, for example. A person crosses a red line and cannot bring themselves back. It's like stepping off a cliff. People are warned, don't step off the cliff. Why? Because there's no coming back from it. If we're talking about psychological matters, for example, infidelity, it means that if someone was unfaithful, they need to return by making a promise, a vow, that they will never cheat again. They need to take steps toward rebuilding the relationship. It's not enough to artificially say, I can't forgive, Or if someone stabbed you in the stomach, slandered you, or took your property, they need to actively work to correct those actions. When someone crosses the line, words don't help, nor do actions like "I can't forgive." Forgiveness is possible when someone argues with you, gets lazy around you, avoids doing something, or refuses to act. These situations are within the boundaries of relationships. But when commandments are violated, the word forgive does not apply. Instead, one should maintain a kind attitude toward the person in their heart. Such a person requires punishment. Punishment means creating distance and setting conditions in the relationship. If you fail to do this and share a bed with someone who is unfaithful, you burn yourself out. Your dignity, spiritual strength, and mental energy are destroyed. You lose yourself and damage the other person. By doing so, you ruin everything because this behavior is unacceptable. If someone mistreats you, you cannot continue living with them. You must set conditions and maintain distance until they repent. If they repent and approach you, you'll begin to feel relief and sense that things are improving. But even then, it's not immediate. For example, if someone was unfaithful and says, "I won't do it again," saying, "Oh, I'm so glad, well done," doesn't work like that. The energies have been damaged. You need to respond, "Thank you for taking this path. Let's move toward rebuilding the relationship." If they say, "I won't cheat anymore," reply, "Excellent. Let's move toward rebuilding the relationship." When the time comes, you will accept the person. In time, God will forgive, seeing that the person is genuinely on the right path. Then you too will develop the right attitude. Until the person truly takes the right path, you won't be able to draw closer to him because he has violated commandments. This is a critical concept that many people don't understand. Some believe they must draw closer to a person even if that person refuses to change. This is the real trap. This is a trap. When you fall into it, you end up spoiling the person. They become even more audacious. You also ruin your own life because such actions take away the most valuable thing in a person's life: luck. Luck depends on a person's dignity. When you conduct yourself with dignity in life, luck will always be on your side. Even if the Lord sends you all the betrayals and trials in the world, you must stay away from such people. Even if your entire life depends on them, keep your distance. In these situations, you must preserve one thing: your dignity. If you maintain your dignity, everything will come back to you completely. You won't lose anything. But the moment you compromise and start behaving with these people as if nothing happened, they will think, "Oh, great, we'll just continue acting this way. It worked." Things will only get worse from there, especially in terms of your fate. Luck will turn away from you and you will suffer. I had such an experience. It happened a year ago, actually 2 years ago. A close acquaintance of mine decided to extort me. He demanded 7 million rubles from me with threats of harm, the confiscation of my social media accounts, and other consequences if I didn't comply. Another person, his acquaintance and also my assistant, started crying and telling me that if I didn't give him the money, he would die. This person was seriously ill at the time, and there was some justification for his plea. I faced a very serious dilemma. I told him, "If we compromise with this person now, things will only get worse." I warned him, but he insisted, "No, we have to deal with him this way." I said, "All right, let's do it your way." And that was a big mistake. As a result, things became exponentially worse. People around me started to lose their sense of boundaries. They thought they could behave this way with me, manipulate me. The demands grew even bigger. 7 million wasn't enough. Soon they started asking for 15 million. Their appetite only grew. The threats began, along with rude behavior and other issues. It all turned into a snowball effect because I thought, well, the person has contributed. They've done a lot. Maybe I really should give them my last money so they can be happy. But this turned out to be something I absolutely shouldn't have done, and it became the reason for a severe karmic punishment for me. Fate punished me harshly later for giving in to these two people. This is my personal example. It happened 2 years ago and is still ongoing, but you must draw your own conclusions for your life. There are commandments that must never be crossed in relationships with yourself. Dignity and honor are the most important things. Never allow people to trample on your character. No one should be given such an opportunity. And if you do, fate will sometimes test you, because everything happening to me now means that I have behaved this way before. That's a fact. You must accept fate as it is. What's done is done, and that's okay. Treat people kindly. Punish them if punishment is necessary. I am now punishing people. Or reward them if they deserve to be rewarded. Wish them happiness. Always keep kindness in your heart, but never compromise in ways that destroy your life. And this should be done kindly. If we are talking about close relationships, everything should be done with kindness. But close relationships mean pure and honest relationships. They cannot mean anything else. Modern culture teaches people to live by twisting things, constantly shifting from one position to another. This is a wrong way of life, where you have many partners. Everything is distorted. What partners? How can we talk about partners when referring to family? Are these really partners? It's called something entirely different. These are close relationships, honest ones, created by God. People twist and distort everything. They destroy what has been created by God. Learn to live a pure life, and then happiness will surely come. Sometimes parting with close people becomes necessary, and sometimes they must be punished. But in your heart, you must always maintain kindness toward everyone. People stumble. It is in their nature to make mistakes. It's normal when this happens to us. It means we've made mistakes ourselves in the past, and that's why God punishes us too. Punishment is sometimes unavoidable. If someone violates commandments, they will have to face punishment. It's an inevitable reality. However, a person must approach the situation kindly, punishing with a good heart, or forgiving if the other person shows genuine repentance.
Dr. Torsunov, thank you so much.
Kindness is God Himself, kindness toward everyone always. One woman once asked me, Dr. Torsunov, I have a kind attitude toward my husband, but he's taking my apartment from me. It's great that you have a kind attitude. Now take him to court. Punish him kindly. There's nothing funny about this, not at all. Imagine you've been tasked with carrying out a punishment of 10 lashes. Do you know what lashes are? They used to whip people with them. 1 lash leaves an instant scar on the back. 10 lashes mean 10 scars. And it's your job to carry out the punishment. Now there are 2 options. One option is to do it with hatred, and the other is to do it with kindness. The person being punished will inevitably look into your eyes. If you act kindly, you might say, well, my dear, there's nothing else to be done. This is the punishment. And then you whip them with the lash. How will he feel about you? At first, it might be painful for him to look at you, but eventually he will accept you in his heart and also accept the punishment, provided it is truly just. Kindness in your heart will allow the person to accept the punishment. Without kindness, there's no possibility of accepting it. The person then turns into a beast. This is why punishment exists. For example, taking someone to court over an apartment is punishment, but the heart is separate. Don't confuse the two. The heart must be filled with kindness because we are not judges. God judges everyone. But punishment is punishment. There's no way around it. People must be punished for their actions. Your question.
Thank you so much. I walk for 5 hours. I practice static exercises.
Why 5? We agreed on 4.
I enjoy it. Sometimes I even walk for 6 hours.
Here is an example. 50 people entered an ice pool. One man told me, when I stood for 12.5 minutes, it became very hard for me. According to your rule, I stood another 4 minutes after that for the heaviness to pass. But where did that heaviness come from? His body started cleansing itself for a second cycle. The entire first cycle had finished. Everything was complete in 12.5 minutes, and then it started over. That's when it became hard for him after the pool. He felt very unwell. Why? Because he overdid it. There's a certain limit. We're working on an app now, and I'm collaborating with a programmer. Soon you'll know how long cleansing takes in specific water conditions and at what speed. You'll have all this knowledge. Now, if you enjoy it, if you start a second cleansing cycle and enjoy it, then it's possible. That's why some people cleanse themselves twice. They complete 1 round of cleansing, running 17 kilometers at a pace of 6 minutes 30 seconds per kilometer. You can then run another 17 kilometers, starting a second round of cleansing. There are specific principles at play in this second round. It's a new form of mobilizing the body, a deeper cleanse. This is great if you're a trained individual. I have a sacred place I visit, where you must run 21.5 kilometers around if you want to circle it. If you walk, it takes about 4 hours and you cleanse all 5 energy layers. But if you run, the cleansing happens faster. The distance is the same, but the speed changes the pace of cleansing. For me, after cleansing 5 layers, I also cleanse an additional 1.5 layers. But during that final half layer, my pulse rises significantly. I did this 3 times in a row, and each time the pulse spike became smaller and smaller. My body started adapting to the additional cleansing cycle. Whether it's necessary or not, I'm not entirely sure. I know that cleansing once is necessary, but as for repeated cycles, I haven't studied it thoroughly. However, I assume that if you continue cleansing joyfully for a certain number of cycles, perhaps even lost teeth could begin to regrow, because such phenomena exist. One man told me a story about being stuck in the taiga and freezing. He wished everyone happiness, prayed, and survived as a result. I observed that he cleansed all 5 layers with cold 5 times in a row, continuously. He didn't overstrain himself and survived because he embraced the cold and endured it the entire time. Eventually, he was rescued. He recovered, and his teeth, which were previously missing, started to regrow. His mouth was completely renewed. I began studying this phenomenon and discovered that some species of eagles retreat to the mountains every 70 years. They stop eating and sit in the sunlight for extended periods. Their feathers fall out, everything that can fall out does, and then it all grows back again. They renew themselves. There are yogis who sit in dark rooms or caves with no light entering, no sounds, and complete isolation. Their teeth fall out, but then they grow back. They live like this for up to 200 years. But there is one issue here. If you do everything incorrectly and are unprepared, everything could fall out and not grow back. So if you lack the necessary knowledge, it's better not to attempt this. I'm just sharing with you what's possible. However, if you want to live to be 90 years old, healthy, energetic, and happy, you should practice asceticism. The principle is simple. Whatever is harder to do is exactly what you should do, because that's where the challenge lies. If it's harder to communicate, communicate. If it's harder to walk, walk. If it's harder to stand, stand. If it's harder to fast, fast. Whatever is hardest to do, that's where longevity resides. But you should start these austerities with what is easiest for you.
I practice static exercises. In my free time, I pray and listen to lectures.
That's very interesting. How has your life changed? I'm curious.
So far, I just feel that it's hard for me.
So you're doing this because you're going through a difficult period?
Yes.
Has it become any easier?
It has gotten easier, but outwardly nothing has improved.
This is the first cycle of fate. It improves things internally. Then comes the second cycle, which is between you and others. For instance, you may feel resentment towards someone, but that resentment will start to fade. Even if the person betrayed you, you'll be able to have a normal conversation with them and interact. However, you shouldn't cast pearls before swine. You can talk to them and wish them happiness. That's the second cycle of fate. The first is peace in your heart. So, your first cycle of fate is being restored, right?
Yes, probably.
My diagnosis is this. You still have a lot of static tension. Therefore, you need to add water therapy. Static exercises alone are not enough. You also need water. There's heat in your body, the resentment remains, and the sense of injustice lingers. You need to remove these with water.
I have a question. I have a serious problem. I'm afraid of losing my inheritance, so I give in to others.
If you're afraid of losing your inheritance, you will lose it. What a person fears is what happens. The first thing to do is stop being afraid. Fear represents the work that needs to be done. Do you need to preserve the inheritance? Build a business, earn money. That's fine. We live and earn money. It's normal. There's no problem with that. What should you do to earn money? You need to pray to God for detachment so that you can internally feel independent from money. When you reach this state, money will flow to you naturally, and you must deeply respect your parents. Your greed or desire to use them must become weaker than your desire to serve them. So serve your parents. That's the first step. Become detached internally. That's the second. Then your parents will feel gratitude and happiness in their hearts that they have you in their lives. This means they will want to give you the inheritance themselves if it is meant for you. That's another important thing to understand. Sometimes we desire something that isn't truly ours. In such cases, it's wrong, and God will not support it. It's crucial to understand all of this because when we try to grab something that doesn't belong to us, it's wrong. For example, if I grab your hand right now and start pulling you toward me, what will you do? You'll resist even though it's Dr. Torsunov pulling you. You'll still resist and try to pull your hand away. Now, when you're pulling from your parents, they will naturally resist. It's an inherent law.
Can I clarify? What if they are against my interests, my spiritual practice?
That's more interesting. Now, there's a contradiction between your spiritual practice and money. That's what God has placed before you. Everyone will face this in life at some point. God will ask, do you choose me or money? If you choose God, you will preserve the money, God and yourself. But if you choose money, you lose everything. It's a tricky test. At the same time, you need to understand what faith truly is. Faith is kindness toward people. You see, here's how it happens. Suppose a person doesn't understand what kindness is, but knows what profit is. Often people begin spiritual practices out of a sense of personal gain, and this eventually destroys families. Let me explain how it works. You feel suffering with a close person. It's hard, unbearable. They've exhausted you. Then you listen to Dr. Torsunov and start going to the temple. You think, oh, I feel so good, so peaceful. Forget them. I feel great. Forget them all. They can stay far away. I'm happy here. There's consecrated food. There are hymns. Everything is wonderful. I love it. And your close ones say, why are you feeling so great all of a sudden? Because I'm not with you. I'm there. That's why I feel good. I'll always be there. That's it. This means you've understood nothing at all. Spiritual practice is meant to bring kindness to your loved ones. You take kindness from the temple and share it with your loved ones. Don't be selfish, don't just enjoy it and remain indifferent to others. How do you share kindness with your loved ones? Don't try to persuade them to go to the temple. Don't tell them how good you feel there. Don't do that at all. It's simple. If someone close to you feels good being around you, then you naturally want to feel good being around them too. But if you can't accept their perspective, conflict begins. So don't tell them how great you feel in the temple. Instead say, I feel good with you. As for the temple, say, I'm just experimenting there, observing how things are. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.